It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantatrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine, indeed. It's been a long hiatus for us over the summer as we've been busy doing some technical stuff in the backgrounds, but we're back. So enough of me chatting, let's get straight into the news because there's a lot to talk about. And first up, we're going to be talking Tiya Sircar and her comments on playing Sabine Wren. We're going to have a little look at the Visions trailer that came out. Stunning stuff coming out from these Japanese animation studios. Next up, we're going to look at what's coming up from Marvel. First up, Issue 1 Life Day, a one-shot special for the holiday season. And also a new mini-series, Crimson Reign, featuring our favourite character there from Solo. Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian comes out this coming week. A good feeling, an official clip from it is up on the official website. We'll take a little look at that. And Carol Weathers has been making little comments about The Mandalorian Season 3, which we haven't discussed for a long time, so let's be discussing that. And then heading up in the big discussion for this week, Jabba's Court. We're going to be having a look at the last episode of Season 1 of The Bad Batch, Episode 16, Camino Lost. And it feels like that season has flown by. The most important thing, we need you guys to subscribe, ring the bell if you're on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, hit like, follow us, obviously, share the content. And most importantly for here, give us your comments because this show is all about hearing your thoughts as well as ours. But the main guy giving his thoughts this week, Mr. Mark Newbold. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Lucky I wasn't scratching my nose then when you looked at me. But yes, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm excellent. It feels like a long time since we had a chance to sit down and talk about Star Wars news on Good Morning Tatooine, but desperate to get back into it.
Yes.
So let's dive straight into the first news item of the week. And Sabine Wren is a character rumoured to be coming back in the upcoming Ahsoka Disney Plus series. And Tiya there, who provides the voice for Sabine in animation, has been making some comments on social media. Your thoughts on, first of all, do you think we're going to see Sabine in Ahsoka?
I think so. It feels logical. I mean, where Rebels ended, you had that little coda where Ahsoka and Sabine were sort of in that post-Return of the Jedi era, sort of searching for Ezra. And it feels... Hey there, Bastian. It feels very much like we're going to be seeing that. It feels like that would sit within the wheelhouse of what Ahsoka's going to be about, because obviously Ahsoka in Mandalorian mentions Grand Admiral Thrawn, and so, you know, there's that whole tie into the Rebels series there, and there is very much a sort of a quest by Lucasfilm to make all these things fit together, which so far they're doing really, really well. As for Tiya playing the role, I think it would make sense. I mean, some of the actors clearly were hired for their voices. I mean, all of them were hired for their voices. They're voice actors, that's why they go in. So you don't automatically assume that, for example, Ashley Eckstein is automatically going to play Ahsoka, and of course she didn't. But a lot of people just were so used to her playing that role, they couldn't envisage anybody else doing it. With Katie Sackhoff, for example, an actress who's done that kind of Bo-Katan role in Starbuck, that sort of punchy, feisty character, that made all the sense in the world. And you kind of feel like Bo-Katan was kind of almost based on her anyway, so that was a natural fit. I think there's a possibility with Tiya it could be the same. I don't know. I mean, really know nothing beyond what we've seen online. But I could see it, yeah, given that it's that sort of distance further on from where they were with Rebels when she was still just a sort of 16, 17. She was only that bit older than Ezra.
Yeah. In terms of our live action work, I don't know a huge amount of Tiya's work. What I've seen her in has been quite sort of sugary-coaty comedies.
Yeah.
The Good Place, which is great in A Good
Yes.
Place. Love that show.
Yeah.
More than capable as an actress. But I kind of maybe agree that when you jump mediums from animation to live action, you don't need to stick with the same actor. And it really depends on what you want that actor to bring to the screen. I think more than anything, and it can be wildly different, from a voice presentation than it can the physical representation of a character.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And I think also Lucasfilm and Star Wars in general has got a history of multiple actors playing the jigsaw puzzle of bringing a character to life. Most obvious one is Vader. How many different people have been involved in bringing Anakin, young, teenage, adult, all the way through to resolution as a character. So I think it's a Star Wars kind of thing that, you don't necessarily assume that one actor will always see it through, unless you're Mark Hamill, of course.
Yeah. Have you given any thought to who you think could play the character?
I don't. I mean, I would really need to sort of have a look and look around and see who jumps out. I've not delved into that side of it, but I think now that Mando season 3, it's on the horizon. Book of Boba Fett's obviously mere months away. Andor and Kenobi, all these shows are really ramping up, and you kind of get the sense that Ahsoka's ramping up. So I'm sure that all the theories, thoughts, and ideas are going to start bubbling up. But I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. At the moment, she seems like the best fit, but there may very well be somebody out there that's absolutely, pitch perfect for what they want. Like you say, it's a different, it's the same character, but she's, a decade plus removed from where we saw her in Rebels.
Yeah, totally. A program that's going to be on air before Ahsoka, Star Wars Visions has released a trailer, and we can kind of have that playing in the background. Whilst we have a little chat about it. This is coming out of some animation studios in Japan. It's something I freely admit I'm the worst person to comment on, because it's totally out with my scope of what I watch. I'm not a manga kind of guy. I see these people dressed up in costumes at comic conventions, and I've got no idea who they are, but you can tell it's huge, absolutely huge. And Lucasfilm's really tapping into this with this new series. And your thoughts from seeing what we've been teased so far?
Same as you. I mean, I used to watch manga when it first sort of came to the UK. Really, you kind of feel like it was the sort of mid to late 80s when it really came. I know Matt Booker from FanThoo is a massive Akira fan. Back in the day, I used to watch, obviously, Akira, Tank Police, and all that sort of stuff. Ghost in the Shell, the classics. But I'm no more knowledge beyond the stuff that I saw years ago. To see this, knowing that there's that heavy Japanese influence on Lucas, that that we know about, the Kurosawa stuff, Seven Samurai, Hidden Fortress, all the stuff that any Star Wars fan would know. To do something as on the nose as this really surprised me, but very much excites me, because what we're seeing now just looks incredible. So many different styles, as anime is. You kind of feel, an outsider might look and think it's all the same. You look at this, it's like, wow, it's so not all the same. And there's people out there that are like you just said, we go to a lot of the same conventions. I see characters, I've got no idea who they're supposed to be. And that's cool. It's a broad landscape of different IPs and such. But I'm really looking forward to this. I think this could be really special. I can't wait for this to start in September.
I'm kind of one of these people that's not against what if stories, but I kind of like the fact that Star Wars keeps its canon. And
Yeah.
obviously, this is dipping its toes into the sort of non-canon kind of territory. I think certainly gives that impression. And I know the what ifs of Marvel's started on Disney Plus. Something I kind of hope Star Wars stays away from a little bit, but this kind
Yeah.
of works for me. I think because it's
Yeah.
so
Completely.
so different,
Yeah.
so unique. It's not just a different take on a character; it's just a complete different representation of everything.
Exactly that. Exactly that. You know, back in the day when Dark Horse did the Star Wars manga stuff, or sort of released that the version, and then I think they did the Phantom Menace, which was sort of done originally for them, and stuff like that. That was so unique and off and sort of left of center. And of course, they did Elseworlds as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
Was it Elseworlds? Was it Elseworlds? No. What was the Star Wars? Infinities, my mistake.
Infinities, yes.
DC was Elseworlds, my mistake. Infinities. You know, that was an interesting take, and they've done it over the years. Dark Horse did it especially. But this, because it is so obviously done in a style, it's a very specific thing. They're aiming for a certain tone and going completely to the door of Japanese animation houses to do it. I'm really looking forward to this, and nothing would surprise me if there's a standout character from this. I mean, we're getting the Visions novel, so if there's a standout character that's that really rises his or her head above the parapet, and then they get pulled into canon, like Legends characters are. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, and an incredible voice cast across all these episodes coming up as well. People are quite surprised to see them on a Star Wars animation program. Some real top names there, and a huge broad church of people. And I think there's probably something going to be in this for everybody.
It feels like it. It feels like it. Like I say, you've got your kinetic, your action stuff. There's the cuter stuff. I know there's very specific names for the different animation styles, which I hope to learn over the coming weeks. But yeah, the voice cast. I mean, there are some big names and some familiar names that have been in Star Wars before, and people that you wouldn't expect. So yeah, it's going to be fun. One thing I don't know, you might know, Brian, is this all coming out in one big hit, or is it week on week? I'm hoping it's week on week.
I don't know, but I imagine it's going to be week on week, because that would take us through to Book of Boba Fett, is kind of my thought.
Yeah.
And certainly going by the number of episodes, it would take us right through to Christmas time. And that wouldn't be a bad thing, I think, to keep us going.
Nah, that would be nice.
4 months of winter. And more content coming up for the holiday season. Life Day is getting a big deal in Star Wars again. There's a real push in the publishing world for Life Day. There's a book coming out, and now Marvel have announced a one-shot celebrating Life Day, and we've got a host of known writers to us, Cavan Scott, Justina Ireland, Jodie Hauser, Steve Orlando, all providing little stories towards this, little anthologies that's going to make up this episode. Your thoughts on this upcoming project from Marvel?
Oh, I love it. I mean, Life Day's been something in the Star Wars universe since obviously the holiday special. So, and for a lot of people, anything that ties into the holiday special is a good thing because it's a holiday special. I think Life Day it's their Christmas, isn't it? So, and there's the book. I mean, I'll put the link to the book on that same page as you can see the treasury. But it's kind of got that that Christmas Thanksgiving kind of vibe. I think it could be fun. It could be Marvel's version of the Vader's Castle that IDW does. That's Halloween based. This is kind of Thanksgiving Christmas based. Why not? It could be fun. I am looking forward to this, and anything with the Phil Noto cover's got me interested anyway.
Yeah, definitely. My one concern is that it's the same as with the Jackson that IDW do, and is always on their annuals. I like Jackson from the 1970s, 80s Marvel comic.
Yeah.
They've almost made him like a caricature of that character. And there's a danger, I think, with Life Day of making it a caricature, because everybody likes to poke fun at the holiday special. And that's kind of my one fear of this project, maybe, with the whole Life Day thing. Certainly, judging by the covers of both the book and the comic, it doesn't look like it's going that way. It looks beautiful. Both covers there. Great talent on the writing team. Just hope they take it, the usual Star Wars line. It doesn't become a sort of caricature of itself, and I can actually see it becoming like an annual thing, almost like May the 4th, that could be a second Star Wars holiday just in the holiday season there, and celebrating Life Day every year.
That would make sense. Black Friday is generally sort of November time, isn't it? So it would be not a bad idea to do that from a business point of view, of course.
Absolutely. Marvel going great guns at the moment in terms of new releases. Also announced in the past week, Crimson Reign, which is a new miniseries from the pen of Charles Soule, who we all know and love in Star Wars comics, and it's going to be focusing on Kira in the Crimson Dawn, and a character that's been back recently in the War of the Bounty Hunters. If you've been picking up that series, excited to see Kira back in Star Wars publishing.
Big time, yeah. I mean, I think as time goes on, with all the other projects getting announced, people, a lot of us really, anyone with a, who's seen Solo will want more Solo and those characters and those worlds. And maybe we will, and maybe those characters will appear in other shows because there's other shows that overlap in the era. So as time goes on, you kind of think, well, will we see a live action Kira? Is that on the cards? Well, until we do at some point, we've got this. And for Charles Soule to sort of say, well, War of the Bounty Hunters was part one of a trilogy. Well, that was unexpected, and now we get Crimson Reign. Generally in Star Wars comics, anything with crimson in the title generally does pretty well. So that's a nice little tick in the box. But I think this could be something really special. And she's a character that definitely deserves, not just needs, deserves more investigation, because where she was left at the end of Solo was so tantalizing. And with over 3 years past that film, I can't believe it. Now we're starting to put some meat on the bone about what she's been doing and how she got to the position she got in. If you've been reading War of the Bounty Hunters, I think it was issue 2 or 3. I think it was issue 3. She's going toe to toe with Vader. She's a fierce character, and she's developed, severely beyond what we saw her in Solo. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this.
And I kind of agree about sort of deserving its own sort of live action content. Emilia Clarke thinks, sounds terrible, but she's in the pay bracket for a Disney Plus TV series. I think everyone on the Solo production is kind of in that kind of role where you could quite happily see them taking on a multi-year TV series project. She's not an actress that's going to be solely involved in movies, and
no.
And I mean that because I love her as an actress. I think she's phenomenal. So I mean that with the utmost respect for her. And
absolutely,
I think it would definitely work. And you've got so much potential within Crimson Dawn to have a whole host of variety of new characters. You could do something really pretty cool with that TV series. But certainly in terms of the comic as well, looking forward to that. I think there's a lot of options at play here, and I think Charles Soule can definitely pull something special off with it.
Oh, him and Cavan Scott are on fire at the moment. Between what they're doing here in War of the Bounty Hunters and obviously High Republic, they seem to be just in the zone at the moment. And I think also just quickly with Star Wars storytelling, storytelling as a whole, I think sometimes it will be the case that sometimes a story not just starts in a comic and then spins off into something else, or starts somewhere else and spins off into a comic. They'll decide to tell the first part of a story in a comic, and then they'll tell the next part as a live action or an animation. I think Star Wars storytelling is going to get more sophisticated in that sense. So maybe this is teeing something else up.
Yeah. Talking to Disney Plus, coming up this coming week, Mandalorian Disney Gallery returns. Special look at season 2, and in particular, seems to be really focusing in on the end of season 2 and the big reveal. Let's call him Luke Skywalker. I still have reservations that he's maybe not.
Yes. And, you think it's Luke with an extra U, do you?
Well, there's been lots of Thrawn teases and Heir to the Empire trilogy teases. You could quite easily throw a little clone in there. And there's been a lot of cloning elements to the Mando series so far. So nice swerve. I think
it would be fantastic, Swerve. No, you're absolutely right. I'm glad you sort of pointed that out, because I've seen a few people have said it, and as you say, I mentioned it earlier. Thrawn came into Rebels. You kind of see Mount Tantis at the end of Bad Batch. The whole cloning thing. It feels like they're building up to Exegol to give you a bit more detail on what happened in Rise of Skywalker, but that's a long way in the future at this point. It's still best part of 30 years away. So, yeah, if that turns out not to be Luke.
I'll
Yeah.
throw
Go
out a
on.
theory we can listen to in a year's time and laugh. If he's a clone and not actual Luke, you've just handed Grogu over to the enemy. So it's a way
Yeah.
for Grogu to cycle back to Mando. Because are they really going to get rid of such a popular character from the series? So he's got to find a way back home. So
Yeah.
that's your way. It suddenly becomes, I need to rescue Grogu rather than he's
Yeah.
awake and trying to be a Jedi. There we go. That's an outlandish.
I love it. Write it down, Bright. I wouldn't disagree with that.
Write it down. Looking forward to seeing this as well. Let's take a little quick little clip that came out in the past week promoting it, and loved the Disney Gallery stuff they've done in the past. I particularly liked the round table. I don't think we're getting that this time, but we're going to get talking to camera pieces like we're seeing here with Dave Filoni. That's some perm he's got going on there when he's taking his hat off. And I like seeing the behind the scenes stuff, and Disney's been a little bit shy of it, particularly around the movies, especially on the publishing front in terms of behind the scenes books, which is a bit of a shame because we all know there's good and bad to publishing, and there's good and bad to filmmaking.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not a bad thing. It's just the reality of things, and what do you want to see in this behind the scene beyond Luke? Is there an element from Mando that you would like to see? I'd love to see how they did that, or I'd love to see more from that particular scene.
That's a good point, because season 1 was a series and season 2 was a special. So I think they probably felt two things. They probably felt that they'd covered an awful lot of the stuff of how it was done, like stagecraft, for example, in season 1. And also, like you say, there's, I was looking away then because I've got my bookcase here with all the old, Star Wars to Jedi and, and all that sort of stuff. And so back in the day when it was a much more innocent time, they wanted you to kind of know how these things work because it really was movie magic and we had no idea. As an audience now, we're so much more savvy and sophisticated. So I think they do want to keep a lid on it to a certain extent. But I think I'd like to see a bit more detail for season 2 on how they created some of the stuff, because especially the stagecraft, that's the thing. I mean, they built a bigger stagecraft, stage, and a lot of the detail there was enhanced, and I can only imagine it's going to ramp up again for season 3. But really, I guess this one is predominantly about how they got Hamill in, and as we saw there, he's playing the role. He's in the room, in the costume. He's Luke. And then how the wizards at ILM, Hal Hickel, those guys, get hold of that footage and de-age him and do it so well. So, yeah, I really hope we get a season 3 and it's not just a special. It is a couple of 3 episodes, because it just feels like they're on a roll now with this tech improving and refining and making it better every time. So, yeah, I just want to see the progression.
And talking of season 3, we had some comments this past week from Carl Weathers on season 3. He mentioned the fact that they're he's going to be directing again for a start, and they're just off to start it as well. So we've obviously got Visions to look forward to. We've got Book of Boba Fett, probably going to take us right into springtime, and springtime next year we could potentially be getting Mando season 3.
It's crazy to think of what we've got ahead of us. Yeah, like you say, they're starting to shoot season 3 fairly soon, or certainly Carl Weathers is starting to shoot season 3, because I think Giancarlo Esposito mentioned similar time frames. So we've got that. That feels like it will probably come after. I mean, as you say, just in the immediate future, Visions, Book of Boba Fett, Andor and Kenobi. Nobody knows quite yet which one will come first, but it looks like we're getting both of those next year, and Bad Batch season 2, and then Mando season 3. I mean, what a world we're in now. It's insane, and that's just what we know, because I think they're probably going to start shooting Rogue Squadron next year at some point. You'd assume if they're aiming for a 2023 release, they've got to start it next year. It's 2022 already, so to have that much stuff on the go at once is just mind blowing.
And the Andor one is the one that always seemed to kind of forget. It always seems to
Yeah.
maybe slip it in the back of my mind, you know. For a time there over the summer, it was popping up everywhere in the UK, and so when it maybe gets a less commentary surrounding it, but it's
Yeah.
something I think could be pretty special, because Rogue One was special, and I think just that whole era, there's something very nostalgic about it, and I think it could be
Yeah.
pretty cool. So that one we'll have to look forward to next year as well.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a well, it's the 5th anniversary this year, isn't it? In December of Rogue One, and that film's got a special affection in a lot of Star Wars fans' hearts. And I think Lucasfilm were lucky in that they had the sequel trilogy, and I feel that they'll probably revisit that in time. But with Rogue One and Solo being right in the thick of that OT era, Mando being at the back end of that era, they can really make hay while the sun shines. And as I say, Disney Gallery's going to show us how they got a younger Luke. And Mando, who knows what we've got for season 3, because season 2 blew most people's minds.
Yeah, totally. And I think at this juncture, it's been worthwhile looking ahead. Looking back at Bad Batch. So let's head over to Jabba's court and get stuck into that. So, Bad Batch, season 1 has just finished, and with the final episode, Camino lost. Mark, your thoughts overall on the series to start with before we get stuck into talking about the episode 16.
What did I think of the series? I was really impressed. I know a lot of people were a bit ambivalent towards it. It's not the Clone Wars, but it kind of is. I think it's because I connected with the characters. I enjoyed the Bad Batch arc in season 7, but it wasn't the strongest arc of the final sort of 12 episodes. But the characters really stood out. So when they announced they were doing Bad Batch, I was really, really pleased that they were doing that and going for it. But the show just started off so strong for me. I review it for Starburst, and of the episodes that they show that I reviewed, I think of 13, the first 13, I think I gave 3 out of 5. It almost became a running joke, but that was intentional. I think it was just a consistently solid show, and I think for a season 1 to be that consistent and solid is really impressive. And I think it did just dial the notch up for the last 3 episodes, so I gave those all a 4. I know the reviews that we put out on Fantatrax, people were generally impressed. There are some episodes that are slower than others, but for me, she's on the screen right now, Omega. I didn't expect to like a character like her as much, because you get a kid character on, they can be a bit cutesy or a bit smarmy, a bit smart, a bit backchatty. It can all be a bit too much. She came in, and it's all down, a lot of it is down to 2 things. Obviously, the animation is beautifully done, and the voice work, Michelle Ang, the voice work is so on point that she became instantly a sympathetic character that I wanted to root for. And I'm 50, and we don't know how old Omega is, 10 maybe, 10 or 11. So it just became compelling, and it was as much about the characters and their interactions and that family, literally their brothers and sisters, developing, as a unit, with Crosshair moving out, Omega moving in. How do they make it all work? So I've really enjoyed season 1. In addition to that as well, you're watching the earliest days of the Empire be established. So it's that as well. It's, how do you change from a republic to an empire and fool trillions of people around the galaxy into thinking it's a good thing? Well, we're watching it happen, and the people who are getting it in their face are seeing that this is not a good scenario, but they're whatever of a percent of the galaxy. Everybody else is completely drinking the Kool-Aid. So really, really important, really interesting.
Yeah, just wondering the people watching along live what their thoughts have been on the Bad Batch, because I know opinions have varied when you follow social media as to whether it met expectations or not. And I think there was maybe some questions about, was there too many what people call filler episodes?
Yeah.
And so on, but you kind of expect that on an animation series, in terms of there's always going to be callbacks to previous episodes and future episodes, and it ends up being one large piece the whole season rather than individual episodes when you go back to watch it. So
yeah,
interested to know people's thoughts if they're watching along live. So do chip in with your opinions. In terms of the final episode of the series, did it pay off?
It was a tough one because it was a two-parter. So we go back to Camino, which is a place that Hunter promised he'd never, that Omega would never have to go to, but circumstances dictated that they needed to go there. Yes, exactly, Phil. Just to say, we had an article on the site by one of our writers, Eric Onkenhout, saying why there are no filler stories in Star Wars. Really good article. Read it if you get the chance. But going back to Camino was interesting because it's a location that we got to know so well in Attack of the Clones, and it's been part of Star Wars lore for the best part of 20 years. And here we are again. It's empty. The corridors are empty. We're seeing the Imperial sort of scourge take this pristine place. Clearly, it's pristine. It's basically a giant laboratory, rain-lashed laboratory. And just watching this location get decimated at the end of the Return to Camino episode, and then we pick it up in Camino Lost. I loved it. I mean, again, it gave Omega a purpose. She was the one that knew how to get into the city. She knew the hidden tunnel. She knew where it would come out in Nala Se's lab. All this sort of stuff. This peril. There was always peril. So it was very much an action-packed episode. But at the core of it was the fact that you got Crosshair back, and Crosshair he's always going to butt heads with Hunter. That's just their relationship. They're always going to butt heads. Wrecker, who's the big lug, but also the heart of the team, says to Crosshair, we'd have always had you back. Crosshair clearly feels like he can't do that. He's got a purpose. It's for the Empire. But we as a viewer know that they don't care about him. He's completely disposable. Like all clone troopers are essentially disposable. They're built, to live and die for the Republic in battle. So I think it's teeing up something for season 2 that we've talked about on Making Tracks. In that I personally think, like you've just given us your pitch for future stories in Mandalorian. I think that in season 2 of Bad Batch, or if not season 2, season 3, you'll have enlisted men and women from all around the galaxy, as we know from the original trilogy. People like Luke living on dusty arse end of nowhere planets who've got nothing else going on, and the thrill and excitement of joining the Empire, like you see in Solo at the spaceport of Corellia. It looks thrilling. Wow, why would I want to stay on this dirtbox planet when I can go and see the galaxy? So you get all these people enlisting to the Empire's ranks that way. And then you've got people who were bred to be Republic soldiers, Republic clone troopers, who now are having a crisis of conscience. I can see these two sides coming together. I can see a second Clone War, basically. And we kind of know where that goes. I think being a clone in this era is as dangerous as being a Jedi. So I think that's teeing up some fascinating stuff for season 2. But as far as Camino Lost went, animation was insanely good. The music was fantastic. They really raised the game for this episode.
You mentioned there people signing up for the Empire. And I maintain the fact, if you've got an Emperor that's like a wrinkly old guy that shoots lightning from his fingers, and his second command's called the Dark Lord of the Sith, you've got no excuse for signing up for the Empire and not knowing what you're getting yourself into.
This is very true. It is true. You got to wonder what the propaganda posters would say. Do they even know? They probably know their like immediate boss, and then nobody else. And they probably think that the Emperor and Vader are a myth. But who knows? I mean, we've probably had politicians on Earth that can fire lightning out of their fingertips, so we never knew about it.
You've kind of mentioned a lot of the characters there, and I think maybe one of the criticisms was people didn't feel enough peril because they weren't as potentially connected to the characters because it wasn't one of the big six, or comments along that kind of opinion.
Yeah.
Did you feel a growing connection to these characters, because obviously they've been featured in the Clone Wars in the past, and people have liked them and gotten to know them and loved these characters from there, but this is the first time they've really been thrown front and centre and they've got to carry the show?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's been enough in those 16 episodes to get connected to the characters, and almost feel that if you're not connecting with the characters, then that's on you. That I did, but not everybody's going to. And I didn't think anyone was guaranteed to get out of this episode. It would not have surprised me one jot if members of the batch hadn't have made it. Again, we talked about it on Making Tracks. certain characters that you come across, like Rex, apparently gets to Endor. There's certain other characters that we know will get further on. But nevertheless, this bunch of guys and Omega, I mean, that would have been the biggest shock in the world if she'd have gone out for whatever reason. I don't see it. I feel like they've got big plans for that character, but nothing was guaranteed. So yes, I did feel the peril, because I don't think anybody outside of the team that's working on it, and I would imagine they've probably got season 2 in the can already, knowing Lucasfilm being way ahead of the curve. But we don't know who's going to get through to the end of the episode and consequently to season 2, or how far after this season 2 is set. And there's no reason why it needs to be the next day they did this. It could be a year later. Who knows? To give us more sort of character development. But yeah, I definitely felt that. But I really have clicked with all the characters.
And is it something that you feel as a result of that you're more invested for season 2, and this season 2's got almost like a grander platform to launch itself from, that everyone's going to be that more connected to each member of the team?
I think so. I think when season 2 of Mando came along and all the rumours about we all heard Ahsoka's coming into it, and this character's coming into it, and that character's coming into it, and the only real shock was Luke in the end, because the way the world is, but no less of an impact when he did. I think with this now, we've had such a solid season 1 that's just proved that the animation division and the animation storytelling is every bit as valid as the live action. Yeah, I think season 2 could really go places. We've got a Celebration before we've got season 2, so I'm really hoping some of the voice cast gets to Celebration. We get to see some of those people as well, because that will only tighten the bond of the fandom to the characters as well. D. Bradley Baker clearly is a fan favourite and has been for a long, long, long time, and he's doing work all over the place. He's been in Rick and Morty, he's in Lower Decks, he's been in Prodigy, he's been in all sorts of different things. So
did you mention Trek?
I'm sorry, I tried not to. Well, it's me. What do you expect? But it's. I think when you get to season 2, and it's got to be, like you say, it's got to be 12 months or 11 months or however many months when it started. I can't remember when Bad Batch started, but you know what I mean. It's that far away that I think the fans are really gonna flip for it, and I think also the writing team are going to make sure there's something that you go, I can't not see that. That's an absolute must watch. But for me, it is anyway.
Absolutely. Anyway, thank you for joining me this week for going over all the news. And that final episode of Bad Batch, we're going to be back each and every Sunday evening at 9 o'clock, so be sure to join us and live. And if you can't join us live, be sure to catch us on YouTube or Facebook after the show, and get your thoughts in as well on everything we've been discussing. Mark, obviously you also do podcasts for Fantha Tracks. Making Tracks is out most weeks, taking a miss this week because you're going on holiday, but what can people find if they're head on over to Fantha Tracks Radio on their podcast of a choice? What's in the archive that they can listen to?
Oh, that's a good question. So, yeah, we're not doing one this week. Like I say, I'm off on my hollybobs for a week. So back next week, back to normal. Mark was 40 over the last couple of days. So he's been off enjoying life, the universe and everything. So happy birthday, Mark. Go back and listen. There's 136 or 7 episodes of Making Tracks in the archive. We've done 104 studio episodes, but the others are from conventions, live shows and such. So go back and listen to that. But of course, there's in the library, there's episodes of Cannon Fodder, there's episodes of Fantha Down Under, episodes of Planet Leia, and Desert Planet Discs and Music Show. We've got another episode of that coming very, very soon. So, and there's another show, and if Paul Naylor's watching, I'm talking to you. There's another show that we're starting up very soon called Start Your Engines, which I've been promising since pre-pandemic, well, soonish, pre-pandemic, and we've just never had the chance to do it because we want to do it face to face. We live fairly locally. We want to sit and look at each other's eyes and talk about something. So that's not a million miles away. But yes, go back and listen to all our previous episodes and love us. Give us likes.
Absolutely. Thank you once again, Mark, and I'll join everybody back here this time next week.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Fantha Tracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Fantha Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.